they went to my bedroom window and started looking into the window, even, and like were just like laughing at me.
That's horrific. They pull off your towel, you run into the house crying, and then they come round to your bedroom window to point and laugh some more at your nakedness.
Yeah, I mean nakedness.
Well, you got the last laugh with a successful OnlyFans where people pay good money to see that now. They got it for free, goddammit.
Exactly, like they got the first show.
Life today is chaotic, unpredictable, and constantly shifting. But within the chaos lies opportunity, and we're here to seize it. This is Generation Uncharted. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here on Generation Uncharted. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. So happy to see you again.
You too.
I'm doing good.
So, the reason I wanted to get you on this podcast is because one of the things I really want to do is figure out how people should live authentically, live life on their own terms. And I feel like you encapsulate that because you have so many different things that you do, from OnlyFans to being a professional geek to all of the Comic Cons you attend to turning your passions into projects. You've done musicals based on your favorite TV shows. So the first question I wanted to ask you really is, how have you sort of found the confidence to be yourself unashamedly?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of shame to be involved in the things I liked for a long time. Even something as simple as like staying home and playing a board game instead of going out, because I'm much more of an introvert. I think I just got to the point where it's like, I'm going to do what I love and the rest will fall in place. And that's kind of my mentality going forward. I just stopped thinking about, trying to make other people happy and make myself happy instead.
And how has the rest of the world dealt with that? Because it's one thing, you always hear people saying, be true to yourself, live on your own terms. But then the second you show up in cosplay or something, and people are like, oh, that's a bit weird. Like, how have you found people reacting to you?
Most people, at least the people that, would be in my life, are very accepting. Most things I've done, I'm just like, I have like a nervousness at first, but then I say it and they're like, fine. The people that do have a problem, I just don't really associate with anymore.
Well, let's talk about being judged. So one of your many things is that you have an OnlyFans account. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Have you ever been judged for having an OnlyFans?
Surprisingly, not as much as I would think. I don't make a point of saying, hey, look at this. But so I do have some discretion when talking to people, and because there is a degree of uncertainty about how people would react. But people that I do tell usually are just kind of like, oh, interesting. Okay, cool. And they just kind of roll with it, which I'm very lucky that way.
Do you feel like overall the perception of OnlyFans creators is changing from it being something quiet to actually people are really quite proud of what they're doing?
I think so, at least. Because even people in my family that I feel like would be more judgmental about it are just like, all right, you do you. So I think it's just becoming more and more common. And when they see how successful you can get at that and how much money you make, like, damn, why am I doing this? So it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's really is pretty lucrative, and they just can't really fight that after that.
And so tell me, what are some of the realities about being an OnlyFans creator? Do you have to spend a lot of time looking for people to collab? Do people come to you with collab? How do you come up with ideas? Do you get weird things that people ask you to, slap yourself 5 times and spin around? What happens? How does it all work?
Yeah, there's a lot. The problem with it is always trying to keep content coming. That's the biggest challenge, because it's a lot of work, especially when you have a day job besides and podcasts besides. I'm like, so my OnlyFans is very casual. I don't have a weekly, I post this every week or post every month. I just kind of post as I have time. But I do always look for collabs, and people sometimes come to me, sometimes I reach out to them. And I have gotten some strange requests, and I kind of try to make note of them, but then I'm like, oh, I forgot. But sometimes I'll do them. I got a lot of interested people wanting me to spank myself in my Spider-Man outfit.
Well, there's a new term now. I can't remember what it was called, but I read about it last week, and it's something like fictosexual or something like that, where you're attracted to fictitious characters. I might not have got the term Right, but there's now a word for it. Like, if
Yeah.
you're sexually aroused by fictitious characters, there's a word for you now.
Interesting. I feel like everybody has that to a degree though, because you're watching any piece of media or playing a video game, you recognize something attractive, and they're designed to be attractive to people, aren't they? So I feel like there is a degree of that just in, when you start to like a show or like a medium, and you're like, oh yeah, I can see myself.
Everyone
in
likes a bit of cosplay.
Yeah.
What's quite interesting about talking to you, I have a friend who shall remain nameless, who literally last week was asking me, should I start an OnlyFans account? And our other friend that was in the chat was saying, look, you've got to think sometimes if people can find that content of you, it closes the door to some opportunities. There'll be certain things you can't do. But I wanted to know from you the flip side of that. So has having an OnlyFans created other opportunities for you? Have people reached out, not wanting to do something with OnlyFans, but maybe something else? Like, how has it worked for sort of broadening your prospects?
Yes. And that's something that I always worried about too, just because you think of like some mainstream kind of more gigs or jobs that you could close doors to. I feel like people would see. It's hard because I haven't done too much, but I've still gotten gigs. I've gotten LA Comic Con appearances, and I've done a lot of different convention cosplay type stuff, so people recognize that. And then people will find you and they might want you to model or be a spokesperson or something like that. I think it's more if you're involved in doing something that's more family friendly, where it becomes more of a problem, because they might associate that with a negative connotation. But for the most part, I find the things that work, and yeah, there's lots of opportunities that are still available.
Talk to me a little bit about how your relationship with your body and sexuality are impacted by OnlyFans, because I would imagine what two people do in their own bedroom is their own business, but when you're getting the camera angles and then having to edit yourself back and be like, oh my god, is that what I look like from that angle, and all that kind of stuff, like, how is that process for sort of reviewing what you're, if you're selling your body, I would imagine you've got to be kind of happy with your body.
It's a double-edged sword. There are moments where I see myself and I go, damn, I look good, and then I'm constantly criticizing myself. I think more often than not, I feel like it's not good enough. I'm like, oh my gosh. I generally prefer it if other people film, and then I can just do what I do, and because they can work out the lighting, they can work it out, and then I can like say, oh yeah, that was really good. But it does put a lot of ideas in my head, like especially like with the social media and Instagram. I feel like all these people are something's more perfecter than me, and I get in my head a lot. But then I have to remind myself how far I've come, and I take ownership of my own body, and I'm proud to be like do it naturally. I don't have like the TRT or the steroids that a lot of media people do. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing really well. I'm healthy, and then I have to keep reminding myself of that.
Talk to me about the bisexuality side of it. So you're bisexual. How easy is it to find girls to collaborate with versus men? Is there any stigma around being bisexual that puts people off? Would you have an easier time if you were just gay or just straight in this OnlyFans world? How does all that work?
I think it's so hard to find women. I don't know why.
In general.
Yeah. I mean, life. I mean, guys are always so much more easier, and maybe because we're more direct and there's more available for men to meet other men. I find, because I've tried to find like even bisexual apps, and they're so terrible. I've had some interest, but I feel like a lot of times I find as like a straight couple or a bisexual married couple, a man and woman who are interested in having a man, join them. But I feel like a lot of times for them, it's almost like a fantasy that they have no intention of actually following through. They just like get off on the idea of it, and because that happens to me all the time. Like they talk me up, and we make plans, and then they disappear.
Interesting. You know what? I have got a friend that has said something like this. Like, people want to bring me in to be the third, but it never ends up happening.
Right.
So maybe it's just a fantasy that people like to flirt with the idea of, but not actually follow through.
So I'm finding that a lot with these guys.
Interesting. So would you want to do more bisexual content, or... And how do you find these people to collab with? Do you just see other people and slide into their DMs? Hey, want to record?
Yeah, a lot of
it's
through social media.
Right.
A lot of it's on Instagram, and a lot of it's on Twitter, because a lot of the content creators are on the Twitter or the Blue Sky, or like the places that they're allowed to market themselves. And you find a lot of connections that way, because people tag who they're working with, and they kind of see you, and there's even like different studios or other websites that kind of look for people on there, recruit on there. So that's been kind of fun. But like I would seek out bisexual creators or like bisexual like websites, and I would like message them and apply to them, and I hear nothing. So
it's a very weird gig being a bisexual in an app world. I obviously speak to a lot of bi men, and some of them are saying, you know what, it's just like, there was one that was like, I don't know if I'm gay now, but I've only slept with like men in the last year, but not because I'm not attracted to women. It's just like men are so much easier to get in bed. He was like, right. I literally have all the straight apps, and I'm swiping. It's like one girl a month might swipe back.
Yeah.
But I open Grindr and there are 15 people ready to meet right now.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the balance. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It's so true. And I don't know if it's because women are more picky or more guarded or what. I don't know, because I feel like I don't know, I feel like maybe men are more outward about their horniness or something like that, or they go after what they want. I don't know what it is, but
I think it might be a numbers thing. Yeah. Like my theory on this is that if you think about gay and bi men, small percentage of the population, so they're all messaging each other, whereas I guess if you think like 90% of the world is straight, at least, if you're a woman and you've got those horny men that you would know of from like the gay side of things, it's like, I don't know what the numbers are. I'm sure the average woman on a dating site is getting like 50 to 100 likes a day. So if you're getting 50 to 100 likes a day, you can afford to be really picky. Whereas I guess if you're, even though it seems more intense in that gay world, because it's actually only a small portion of the population, and then you've got it by location, it probably is actually not as many people as you would think. I don't know. I need to get a woman on here and ask her about how many swipes a day do you get.
Right.
Interesting.
It would be interesting. Yeah.
So just wrapping up on OnlyFans, what would your advice be to someone that was thinking about starting an OnlyFans? So to my friend who's thinking about starting an OnlyFans, what would you say? And also, do pepper in a little bit of your own experience of what made you start. How did you feel posting that first picture?
Sure.
Give us the origin story too.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I started off. It all began on Tumblr, because I'm very much.
What year was that? Hasn't Tumblr been dead for years?
I think it died and came back, but I haven't been on there.
Didn't they like get rid of all the porn, and then it just like people were like, well, there's no use for this anymore? Right.
And then they retracted that, and they brought it back anyway. So
too little, too late. Everyone had already found new platforms.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So I don't know what Tumblr's doing, but I would post on there because I'm very much like to show off. I enjoy like being sexy and having people see me, kind of a exhibitionist that way. And so I would post pictures on the Tumblr, and then I realized more and more people were stealing those pictures and catfishing with those pictures. And I was like, well, this is stupid. So I figured if people are going to be stealing my content, I might as well be getting paid for it. And that's what sparked me to create the OnlyFans. It helped that I did have quite a big following on Tumblr, so a lot of people had followed me, and it helped. So I think it's easier for people to like want to start something and get discouraged when they don't have numbers or they're not making as much as they want. So it's really about promoting yourself. But I only ever really promote it on places where I'm allowed to be naked. So I posted on like mostly the Twitters at the back time, and I hated Twitter because I'm like, I don't want to be there. And the only reason I was on there was because I was allowed to like market myself that way. Because even on Instagram, I hint at it, but I'm not very outward. Like, follow my OnlyFans. It's just in my link tree. You have to like know how to like stalk me enough, I guess, to find it.
Love that. Okay, so you got to take a different marketing approach based on the platform.
So, but I think if it's something you want to do and enjoy, go for it. And then you just kind of collab with people who could help you grow. Because it does help if you collab with someone who has bigger numbers, because then people can see you and it just starts to cycle from there. Yeah. And my first time on the camera that I filmed was with, I don't know if you know this person named Griffin Barrows. That was my first ever collab. And I wasn't even sure what it was going to be. I didn't even know we were even recording really, or what we were going to be doing.
I love the plausible deniability. I don't know what I'm doing here. Why are your clothes off?
Yeah.
Where am I?
I mean, I knew that was going to happen. I mean, we were going to have sex, that's for sure, but I didn't know we were, like, filming all this and, like, what exactly the plan was. That was, like, scary, but also exciting. It's almost like when I started modeling. Like, the first ever modeling shoot I did was nude, and I was, like, aroused by that taboo of it, but then it grew and grew, and I got more opportunities, and then I became more used to it, so I was like, okay, this is just a same old day, getting naked, it's fine.
Has it
But yeah.
impacted your sexual enjoyment in any way? So when you're just with a partner, no cameras rolling, do you kind of think, oh, this is a wasted shot? Or is there kind of like, there's obviously pressure to perform in front of the camera when you've, had someone fly in for a collab,
Right.
versus, if this doesn't work out, it's just fine, we can just laugh it off because it's just me and you and no camera. Like, has there been any effect there, or are you good at compartmentalizing?
I mean, I enjoy sex in all the ways. So with the camera on or not on. Sometimes I think about, like, oh man, we could have been filming this. So I do think about that, like, oh, I could have had more content. Oh man. But either way, I'm just like having a fun time. Even if it's, some things I'm glad weren't, if I'm doing something like more personal and I'm like not enjoying it, that where I'm like, okay, this was good that it wasn't recorded, because people can tell if you're in it or not. And I don't like to, like, fake anything. Like, there's, like, fake enjoyment or, like, pretend I'm into somebody who I'm not. That's, like, not for me. And that's what I feel like a lot of studio people have to do sometimes. Whereas, like, when I do my own content, I get to choose who I'm collabing with. I usually know there's a mutual attraction there, and it makes it so much easier.
Interesting. I guess that is a big point of difference. With OnlyFans, you're in control, so you can decide who you collab with, whereas if you're doing studio, this is the person you might not even know until the day. Right, well, let's move on from OnlyFans a little bit, because as I say, you have so many different hats that you wear. So you're not just an OnlyFans creator, but you are also a certified nerd. And I did want to talk to you about this a little bit more, because I feel like when a lot of people were growing up, if you were like in your teens, like 15 or something, and you were like, oh, I like Spider-Man or Charmed or whatever it is, that's a bit weird, grow up. The world has changed, though. Superhero films in particular are big money. The budgets of some of these superhero films, because people have now kind of gotten comfortable with being a nerd and wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt. So how have you found that change from maybe in the early 90s or noughties, that being something that people made fun of, to now it's like, well, look how much money this generates, like, because people love being a nerd and people love that element of fantasy.
Yeah, it's something I've come up a lot in recent years, because it was totally different back in the day, and I didn't think as much about it. I remember particularly with, like, Charmed or, like, Wizard of Oz, because those are some of my bigger obsessions as a kid. I had some embarrassment about those, or at least misconceptions about those, because when I was, like, getting called out for Wizard of Oz, I was like, oh, like, someone said, like, that was a gay thing, like, really? Oh, like, and I didn't want to be, I was, like, so, like, not really sure what that meant, and I didn't want to associate with something that I wasn't really, because I was, like, in 4th grade, I was like, I don't know what's going on here, I don't know. But I didn't want to have those connotations. I'm like, I just like it because of the colors and the fantasy, and it's pretty and stuff. But then with Charmed, people thought I was watching it just because I liked the attractiveness of the women. So I was like, no, I like the story as well. So I had to, like, keep fighting those, like, ideas that people had, and that bothered me. But now, even just being nerdy and stuff, yeah, it's completely changed. People think it's almost hip to be nerd. It's almost hip to be bisexual too. When it came out, it was not the thing it is
Well, we
now
live in
either.
hope. I think there's still a bit of work to do there. But tell me a little bit about online communities, because that's what I found really odd, being a little nerd myself sometimes, is that actually you might have felt like the odd one out. You might have been the only one in
Yeah.
your school to have liked Charmed or Spider-Man or whatever it was. And it was like, well, I've no one to, even if you didn't feel self-conscious, you didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. But now you've got these Facebook groups or other online forums where actually everyone that felt the same has now come together, and they're, like, sharing all of their geekiness. How was finding online communities?
It came together naturally. I just started posting about things, or, like, when someone else posts something and you like it, and you can kind of see all the comments, you start to find those people. And I was just kind of okay being on the sidelines and, like, helping out here and there. But when I started the podcast, I almost felt like a responsibility then to the community to keep delivering and sharing my knowledge, even in a more easy way for people to digest or find. So that was cool.
Well, it's really interesting because, particularly on the charm side of stuff, I mean, I'm looking at your background now. I can see props from the show. You obviously did your own musical. You have met all the cast. So you've actually created content. You've met all the cast. How is it, really feeling that those barriers to entry have been reduced and actually being able to sort of almost be part of the content from a fan base that still wants stuff but has never really got the reboot it wanted or the movie it wanted, but you've actually created new content that then the stars themselves have seen. So how is that? Because I feel like in the 90s that just would not have happened. It would have been like, who is this person? Like, get rid of him. Whereas you've met everyone and you've had them on your podcasts and things like that.
12-year-old me would have fainted, I'm sure. Like, because like, how is this happening? The fact that I got to meet everybody and talk to them and have them know my name was it's super crazy. I mean, at the same time, I try not to get too starstruck by celebrities, but charmed people, they're like ingrained in my psyche. They're ingrained in my soul. So when I see them, it just feels like, a part of me lights up, and getting to know them is very special. And I gave pretty much all of them a copy of my script of the musical too, and I wrote a little note and gave that to them. Whether they read it or not, I don't know, but they have it, which is exciting to me. And the musical episode, I'm a big theater person, and we never got a charmed musical episode, so I wanted to create one. I didn't think it was possible until I listened to my podcast. We had a episode where we just made up songs, and a listener took those songs and wrote demos of them. And once that happened, I was like, so this is possible. And we collaborated, and he wrote 22 original songs. I wrote the script, and I helped with the lyrics and kind of told him where I want the songs to go, and it became a real thing. And I'm very proud of it.
No, it was great, and I think that this is what's really nice about the modern world now, is that you can do those things. You can create those projects on limited budgets and get pretty decent viewing figures for them as well. Whereas you would think, in the 90s or noughties, you'd need a full studio, you'd need to hire everyone, you'd need to have a place to do it all. But now, actually, people can just create the kind of content they want, which I do think is quite empowering and such a shift change from the world in which we grew up in. I mean, we're doing this podcast now. So,
right.
And you do so many podcasts. It's like, actually, I want to do this, I can do it. Whereas before, you probably need to, get advertisers and get studios involved. So I do think it's a brave new world. Have you got any other projects that you want to be working on? You got any spoilers for us?
The X-Men one, my co-host Sean, he wants to write a little radio show every year. So there's that. We just did Too Mutant to Handle, which was a parody off of the Too Hot to Handle reality show. And they did it with X-Men characters, and we had people just do a bunch of voices of these characters. So I played Cyclops and Deadpool in that, which was super fun. As for the podcast, I don't know if I'm going to write anything again soon. We'll see. But I still have got at least 3 or 4 years of content that I have to go through. We're currently covering the magazines.
Love that.
Yeah.
So busy. Well, this is kind of what I next wanted to talk to you about. Talk to me a little bit about hyper productivity, because someone turned to me the other day and said, you're very hyper productive. You've got podcasts, you've got books, you're writing articles, you've got children, you've got a full-time job. And you are in sort of the exact same situation. You've got a full-time job, then you're an OnlyFans creator, then you're doing all of this cosplay stuff, then you're running all these podcasts. How do you manage it, and how do you decide what gets your energy day to day?
Yeah, I do have to kind of compartmentalize. I have to focus on one thing at a time sometimes, or spend a few months getting this cosplay ready for the convention. Once the convention's done, then I can go do something else. It is a lot. I get very tired, but I do have a passion for all of those things, and I do enjoy all of those things. So it's just kind of, taking the time to commit to all of those things, even if it's just a little bit.
Do you have a plan, and does it ever become not fun? I've heard people that, had a real passion for horse riding, and then they got into professional horse riding, and then they just hated it. So does doing all of these projects around the things that you love and find interesting ever get to a point where it's like, I can't even look at another episode of Charmed ever again?
I don't think it's gotten to that point quite yet. I do think like the podcasting, because I would do 2 podcasts a week, one X-Men, one Charmed, and the grind of that can sometimes be challenging because it's like, oh, I have to go do this again. But once I'm in it, once I'm doing the recording, I have so much fun, and I love talking about the Charmed, and I love, really laughing with my guests, and I love, using my knowledge and saying, oh, this is not correct. This thing written here is not correct. That is very exciting to me and very enjoyable for me. So once I'm doing the recording, I forget all that. So it's kind of like I'm more constrained by the just idea of the work that's to come. And then when I do it, I'm okay.
How do you manage things then? Do you have a sort of to-do list, a calendar, a plan? Because I would say, with all of the different things that I'm doing, it's kind of like I have a plan, but also you sometimes can't force yourself to be motivated for things that you're not in the mood for. Like, there might be times where I'm like, I want to edit a video, so I'll do that. Or there might be other times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to answer a question for the advice column because I'm in that kind of mood. But sometimes, because things come from your passion in the things that we both do, there are times where it's like, oh my God, they're on my back. They need another advice column. I got to get that done, but I'm just not in the headspace to wade through someone else's problems right now and try and come up with constructive solutions. So how do you balance that?
Yeah. I know, like, 'cause sometimes like it's with like the gym. It's like, oh, that's what sometimes gets sacrificed because it's like, oh, I've done all this stuff, but I should go work out. I should get that, and then I'm too tired, or I don't have the energy, or just like gotten really late in the day, and I just need to go to bed. So with that, or like even like doing the OnlyFans stuff, like I just do not have. My body is not ready for any of that, so I have to say, no, I have to do it later. I'm just going to chill out and watch TV because that's what's healthier for me right now. So it does, you do have to just kind of listen to your brain and listen to your body. And if it needs a rest, you need to honor that rest. You have to have a level of flexibility with guests sometimes too. I have to work off their schedule, and we pick a date, and they have something come up. We have to move it around. Just with this podcast, we had to do that. You have to have a level of flexibility when you do that too, just because people are people and things happen.
Do you ever worry that it'll all fall apart? Do you think that it would be hard for you if you just said, right, I'm having a year off, no projects? Like, who would you be?
Oh man, that would be tricky. Yeah, because you do get so much of your identity in the things you do. I'm sure I could do that if I chose to. And because even if I'm stopping projects, I'm still me, and those things still exist in me. So I could maybe post, here's the episode of Charmed I'm watching today. Even though I'm not doing a podcast, it's still part of me. And so knowing that you're still you without even all the work you do, I think that's a good reminder to keep you going.
Well, let's talk a little bit about bisexuality, because people would expect that from a podcast that features both you and I.
Yeah.
Right, one thing I want to ask you, you've talked about it a little bit on the OnlyFans thing, but outside of OnlyFans, how does dating men compare to dating women? What have been your observations?
Yeah, it's definitely easier to find men. We talked about that. I've had some interest from women, but I feel like they also like to be chased, or like, so society tells them that they have to be chased by the men, and they don't. They just sit back and wait. I think that's something that they do a lot. And because I'm not the type of person that goes after people, I've always just been approached most of the time. Lucky me. But I'm also kind of like nervous because I never really had the need to ask anybody out before. And so there's a part of me that just doesn't know how to do that or know how to adapt to that. And being an introvert too, I'm just like, oh, it's not worth it. It's fine. Even if I think I might, I'm like, no, I can just go home. It's fine. So that might be part of it, because I had a girlfriend in college for 3 years. And the way we met, I was just walking around campus and she's like, hey, you could be my friend. That was what she did.
Love that.
And I'm like, okay, well, hang out. And she just got like dumped, and so she was in a weird place, but we had a lot of fun. We watched Chicago, and her roommate's like, she really likes you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I kind of like fell into that relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you look on like things like YouTube now and other podcasts, and the amount of advice for men around dating in the modern world it's quite intense. So I'm obviously, not in that world, but I would assume that it's a lot harder. And I kind of thought that it was probably made easier by apps these days. It's kind of like, oh, well, If you want sex, you want a relationship, you just download the right app, you message the people, and you get it all booked in. But I think when it comes to straight people, or certainly straight women, it's very different, and it's quite interesting speaking to other bi men nowadays that are like, look, I really want women, but like I just can't be bothered to go out and do all these things like slay a dragon to, go improve myself, when there are guys just here easy to message. So I do think it's very interesting, where it's actually about the different dynamics of the different genders and how they tend to approach the dating. But we'll see. So how do you feel in general being a bisexual man is treated today rather than 10 years ago? Do you think it is getting easier?
I feel like it's definitely less invisible.
Mm-hmm.
People at least like know the word and know it's something that's happening now.
Yeah.
Because when I came out, I was like, I came out as bisexual like in 2011, 2012, a long time ago. It was totally different. There was so much stigma, so much uncertainty, so much lack of information from people, which still exists today. It's always going to be around, but I felt like I had to fight a lot harder. Now I say bisexual, and people do inquire, they ask questions more, or they're more willing to listen to me, which I think is nicer. And I've had a few people still, like, I get it from like a lot of gay guys, and they don't get it. They think it's, a stepping stone type of thing, or they call me disgusting, or I'm like, okay, thanks. So there's still some of that adversity.
It's wild that in 2025 people still don't get it. But it is what it is. It's almost, it doesn't surprise me anymore. It's like, you know what, of course. What it is, it surprises me the people that it comes from, because I always think people think that it's all just horrible right-wingers. I'm like, no, like it comes from gay people as well. It comes from some of the most left-leaning people you would ever meet. Are like, I love everyone, I love everything. Oh, not bisexual, so I'm not that far gone. It's like, oh my god, really? That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Most of the backlash I got was from the gay community, which was so insane to me. I did a show, I was doing a play with someone, a musical with someone that just said, the bisexuals don't exist. And I'm like, and it wasn't nasty about it, but it really broke me for a long time. It's like, how dare you think that you know me better than I know myself? I cried for a little bit after that, just because like, dang.
I think that's one of the wildest things about bisexuality is that people think that they know more about what turns you on and more about yourself than you do. It's like, I'm the one in my skin. Are you insane?
Yeah.
But people think it. Anyway, I want to get down to know a little bit more about you now. So we've talked a lot about your projects, but this podcast, I really want to get under the skin and understand a little bit more about what drives people and how people find happiness and find fulfillment in their lives. So the first thing I do actually want to ask you, though, in contrast to all of that, is as someone that, follows all of their passions quite well, what do you actually find yourself critiquing yourself for most?
Well, I do critique my body a lot. It happens, but then I get over it. I sometimes hate my voice. That happens a lot too. I think because the things you're putting out there become more under the microscope, so you think about them more. And sometimes my inability to make decisions, because I like multiple options, and I'm like, oh, this could be good, or this could be good, and I need to just commit to something sometimes, and it takes me a long time to just make that decision. So yeah, I think some of that stuff.
And do you ever find yourself comparing yourself to others, whether it's, an OnlyFans creator that's got more followers than you, or content that you think is better than yours, or even on the charm stuff? How would you feel if someone came along and did, a musical that wasn't yours? Do you feel inspired or jealous, or how do you deal with comparison culture?
It's very tricky. Because like in the charm community, because I want to support everybody, I want them to have success, but you also don't want to feel like they're stepping on your toes, like covering your same ground, and that's very challenging, because even like with getting celebrity guests, like people from Charmed, like say like I was after this person to come on my podcast. I was trying so hard for months to get them on my podcast, and then another person got them on their podcast. I was like, well, how did you do it? And then I do have that kind of like jealousy in a way, but then at the same time I'm like, I have to like stop and be like, no, good for them, it's fine. uh yeah, it happens quite a bit. And you just gotta go with it, and you just gotta keep doing you and find ways to stand out and make your voice heard and be creative and be unique yourself. You can still keep going. So it's hard, but good.
When was the last time you felt a significant amount of pride or accomplishment across all these various projects? Because I do think when you do so much, like with me, I'll be doing all these different things and I'm like, oh, good, that's sent. Oh, good, that's sorted and done. And I
Right.
don't really take, like, even when my book was published, it wasn't like I took a moment to, like, crack open champagne and be like, the good life. It was like, right, what else am I behind on now? And I think that can become a little bit negative if you're not
Sure.
careful. When was the last time you felt a significant sense of achievement across these projects, and how do you celebrate, like, a good project?
See, like, I think it might have been the musical. Because like the podcast I do every week and it's always on to the next one. Whereas the musical, it was like a year of writing, 2 months of recording, getting auditions and cast, and it was like outside of myself. I had to like I take the script and make the music when it was just me and Aaron, and then once I had to have other people read it, that was the scary part for me, because it's like it's other people are going to see it, and then when we had a cast and they were learning these songs and they're putting it out there. I don't know. It was very cool to like have our own just little musical community in that one project, and people from all over the world were involved, and I was very proud of that. And I did like a watch party with people that were local, and I had sent everybody like the soundtrack. It was really great for people to just be a part of and tell people that they are a part of it too.
No, I love that. Talk to me about home, because home is a big one that I think a lot of people struggle with these days, knowing whether they should be in the city, the countryside, which city, who they should live with. And, I think back in the past, things were a lot easier. You just sort of lived where you grew up. You knew everyone. There was more of a village feel. A lot of people nowadays will move to a massive city and feel really isolated because they don't know anyone. So talk to me about how you found home and what makes home a home for you.
It's funny. A lot of it has to do. I think of like lighting. I don't know.
Okay,
why.
no, I want all the weird things that factor into what someone thinks of when they think of home.
Yeah, I mean, I like to. There has to be a level of familiarity, of course, or at least a level of safety. And so, like, if I travel somewhere and I meet somebody who has a similar interest or knows what I'm talking about when I do something really obscure and weird, like I can quote Charmed and like, they get it. I'm like, okay, I'm safe here. I'm great here. But like, I like kind of a nice warm light, and it's just even having that in the room is comforting to me. Like you go into like something that's just like more stale or bright and stagnant or dim, that is going to be off-putting to me. So it's interesting that I have this whole lighting connotation to it, but it's true. And so like that's a good like entry point. Yeah, just being with a piece of clothing or action figure or a person who understands me, that's enough to give me a sense of home, I think. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere that you've ever wanted to live? And if so, why? If I could write you a check and give you any passport in the world you wanted, where would you go and live?
Somewhere warm. I'd like to go to see Australia, maybe. That might be fun. Because I would love the wildlife. Even though they've got some crazy wildlife and scary things, I would be interested in them. I like nature. I like the outdoors. I like the warmth. Yeah, I think it'd be really neat. Even though it's in the future. It's like totally in the future.
Question just on how you were talking about, I can show up and be weird and then I know like, oh, this person gets my weirdness. Do you feel like having, and I'm not sure how to describe them really, obscure niche interests actually helps with connecting with people? Because whilst there are fewer people, as soon as you find someone that gets the quote you just said from Charmed or whatever it is, it's like, oh,
yeah,
we get each other, we're vibing. Like, is that easier than, just showing up and being like, hi, I'm a bisexual man trying to find like other bisexual, like, is it, if you've got niche interests, is that easier to make friends?
I think so. It helps you stand out because it's like if you go somewhere and say, hey, I like Star Wars, okay, it's like there's nothing really special about that. So having
we
those
apologize to the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah, Right, it's
But it's true.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's something that's so mainstream, that's such a cultural like zeitgeist that everybody knows about it. I feel like it's just almost like so what. So when you find something is more specific, it is very special, and you can branch off into other different topics based off of those small little connections.
Well, Kevin, let's bring this one home with one final question. We like to end each episode of this podcast on either a heartwarming or funny note. So you can tell us one funny story or one heartwarming story. It's your choice.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, let me think of something first. Okay. And so this is like in all of my life, anything.
Yeah, we want people to leave this podcast on a nice note where they're, oh, that was beautiful, or they're still laughing from the wild story you told me. No one ever tells me wild stories anymore. There was one person that told me a wild story, and then the lawyers got in touch and said you can never play that. So it was wild.
I'll tell you a story. All right, this is a wild story. Funny but stupid. All right. When I was a kid, when I was like 12 years old, 13 years old, I was in 6th grade, and I was dating this girl in the neighborhood. But the other kids in the neighborhood like to make fun of that because they're younger. They're like, ooh, whatever. And one time I came out of my house in a towel. I came out of the shower, and I was just like, I'm gonna be in a towel. But the kids, like there's 2 girls, they pulled my towel off in the middle of the front yard of my house outside. And I was like, so embarrassed. So I ran into the house and ran into my room. But
How old were you?
I was 12.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And this is super crazy. And this was, my girlfriend at the time too was just like, make me feel like I was not normal. I think not average, like average size for things, And I was
Right.
I was like, but she found out later that I was much bigger than average, but it's fine. But I ran into my bedroom, and those girls that pulled off the towel, they went to my bedroom window and started looking into the window, even, and like were just like laughing at me.
That's horrific. They pull off your towel, you run into the house
Yeah.
crying, and then they come round to your bedroom window to point and laugh some more at your
Yeah,
nakedness.
Yeah, I mean, nakedness.
Well, you got the last laugh with a successful OnlyFans where people
I
pay good
did.
money to see that now. They got it for free, goddammit.
Exactly. Like they got the first show.
Oh, well, you know what? Some people would find that really damaging and would never want to be naked ever again. But you have had the last laugh there, so that's
I used to be
positive.
very shy. I used to be very shy and hide in the corner, and now I'm just like letting it all hang out. So it is an interesting
Literally
kind of
let it all
phenomenon.
hang out.
Yeah.
Well, so, Kevin, if people do want to follow you, where would you like to send them?
All right. Well, there's a bevy of places. You can follow my Instagram at KJEEZY, or the podcast Instagram for Words of the Witches, my charmed podcast, or Solving for X. Xmen.tas is the X-Men podcast Instagram. If you want to follow my OnlyFans, it's onlyfans.com/thatnakednerd. I'm on the Twitter and Blue Sky under That Naked Nerd as well. Yeah, I think that's all the places. So yeah, cool.
See, it's exhausting. It's like talking to myself, where it's like you've got too many projects.
Yeah,
But I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a really enjoyable chat.
of course. Always love chatting with you, Lewis.
Right. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.